Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucha Underground Luchador Spotlight. Today, we are going to be talking about Killshot. Now, on a personal level, I've always felt like Killshot had a very similar look to King Cuerno, but as it turns out, they also had a bit of a feud in season one. So, John, let's talk a little bit about Killshot, and not just necessarily the King Cuerno feud, but let's just talk about his season one in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know he makes his arrival, at the temple as part of the family, in the trios tournament. And, from that moment, when we first saw Killshot compete in the tournament, I took a liking to the guy. I liked how, true to his name, Killshot, he always seemed to be a guy that believed in precision of strikes and, aerial maneuvers that meant their mark. In a way, like it wasn't just the attire of King Cuerno that he seemed to share a semblance with in his own attire, but also some of the mannerisms and just way he would approach an opponent. So yeah, Killshot's a very interesting character indeed.
Yeah, and I think the feud between them was really the best way to go about acknowledging that because, I mean, King Cuerno has the arrow of death or the arrow from hell or whatever it is. I forget what the exact name of it is, but the suicide dive that he does the arrow pose beforehand. And then Killshot has the big target on his head, and his whole thing is about being precise and that kind of thing. So very, very, very similar gimmicks because you've got a hunter, and you've got to assume that hunters use some kind of weapon to shoot their prey. If we're talking about a human hunter, and then Killshot, his whole gimmick is that he's precise. So just really similar gimmicks. As far as Killshot season one, again, like you said, started out with the trios tournament with the crew. He got a pinfall over Tejano to eliminate Metal Gear Solid from the finals of the tournament. So that was a pretty cool thing that he did. But really, again, they didn't end up winning. Team Havoc won. But then he did end up in just kind of a few random matches before ending up in this feud with King Cuerno. And that feud was great stuff. Were they both in the seven way for the Gift of the Gods, or was it just Cuerno that was in that?
I believe it was just Cuerno that was in it.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we have a few ideas that we'd like to see, just to kind of highlight Killshot a little bit more. I would say than he was in season one. Would you agree?
Yeah, certainly. For me, we already kind of had like a big conversation on the Mac video prior to this about how we would kind of rebuild the family, but make it into a big heel angle for Killshot. Because again, he has such an enigmatic look, a lot like King Cuerno, and he skulks around, and he's got like this malicious vibe that we really want to build on that. But I think also in season two, I would like to actually see him challenge Phoenix for the Gift of the Gods championship because during Killshot's first season, he actually had a very competitive back and forth match with Phoenix. Those two went one on one at one point. I thought they put on a fantastic match. So I think as long as you set up the proper basis for it, where Killshot would be justified to get a crack at it, I'd love to see him and Phoenix go at it for that championship because I think it would also be nice to get some more unlikely challengers in the mix as well, just to keep up this whole feeling that anything can happen in the temple at any time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Our whole thing with Killshot was to make him Dario Cueto's new right hand man. Give him the story that he took out Big Rick. He's the reason Big Rick isn't around anymore. Whether they want to imply that he killed him or that he, sent him on a suicide mission or I don't know, something like that. But he's responsible for Big Rick not being around anymore. He takes Big Rick's place as Dario Cueto's favorite hired assassin, and Cueto then uses him to take out whoever the hell he wants, whoever makes him running the temple slightly inconvenient. They get a meeting with Killshot. So I love that idea that we came up with, and we came up with it during our spotlight of the Mac. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you get a little bit more fleshed out. John, is there anything else though that we had in mind for Killshot other than just Dario Cueto's right hand man and a feud with the Mac?
No, I mean, again, the only other thing specifically that I would love to see from Killshot to kind of, I guess, lay the groundwork that he is going to have a bigger profile before going into that story. Maybe a challenge Phoenix. Maybe you just have a really competitive matchup with another great high flyer in the temple, maybe like a Son of Havoc
See,
or an
and you know
Angelico.
what? The more we talk about it, I'm thinking it would be really cool to kind of establish him as Cueto's right hand man, as that sort of that higher level Rudo character, if he would have, because obviously we're planning when we get to it a big main event feud between Prince Puma and Pentagon that somehow works their managers into it, but that can't last all season. So I think earlier on in the season, it would be great if we could get a Killshot Prince Puma feud.
See, I like that idea. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Because
because I mean, you figure Killshot needs to get established against one of the top guys in Lucha Underground if he's going to do that whole, Cueto's right hand man, his hired assassin kind of thing. Why would you hire an assassin that can't get the job done? I wouldn't even be super opposed to him winning against Puma more than once, even. I don't think that it's going to bury Puma in any way whatsoever to have him lose a few matches to Killshot and help establish Killshot as really just kind of establish him as somebody that can take out top guys.
Well, here's my justification for that, Ashton, because I agree with you completely. Look, we know that Prince Puma lost in the main event of the very first Ultima Lucha against Mil Muertes for the championship, and it was a big deal, A, because he had been such a dominant champion prior to this match with a multitude of successful defenses under his belt, no pun intended, and he didn't have Conan by his side. I want this loss and the absence of Conan to have a mental effect on Puma that isn't readily resolved. And I think seeing him lose to the likes of a Killshot or this one or that one would really set in Puma's mind, okay, I'm back at the bottom and there's no way in hell I'm getting back to the top unless I make things right with myself. And I even said, I don't know if it was within this series or Lucha rewatch, but I even said that what I would like to see is Puma getting more attuned to the tribe from which he came from. And, kind of going back to his roots so he can get himself right. But I think before then, you need to give both Killshot a motivation to want to go higher and Puma more of a motivation to want to kind of reset himself and get back to a good place. I feel like a losing streak does that for the latter, and winning against a big guy like that does it for the former. So that's really how I would set the stage, personally.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to add, John?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Wow. Okay. Well, this has been our quickest episode of Luchador Spotlight so far, but that's almost exclusively because we already covered a lot of what we want Killshot to do while discussing the Mac. That being said, though, our next episode coming out on Tuesday, I think we actually got a request for this too, John, didn't we?
We may have. Who you got, brother?
King Cuerno.
Ah, my goodness. Oh,
I'm
this is gonna
pretty
be
sure
fun.
I remember somebody in our comments section asking specifically if we could do our next spotlight on Cuerno, and that was actually the plan all along, believe it or not.
Right, right. Because yeah, Killshot having that brief feud with Cuerno, I'm sure just keeping the connections going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for those of you that aren't really aware, we do have every episode planned out at this point. We know who we're going to be reviewing and when. So Jacob Radley, that's who it was. I appreciate the request, but you actually nailed it on the head because you kind of knew who we were going to be doing next. See if you can guess who we're going to be doing after King Cuerno. I dare you.
Yeah, yeah, bring it on, people! But I can't wait. King Cuerno's amazing. That's going to be a fun episode on Tuesday. You guys aren't going to want to miss that one.
Absolutely. That being said, guys, we will see you all on Tuesday for that, and then of course we have our big NXT review on Wednesday. Gonna have isn't yeah the women's titles on the line on Wednesday, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Alexa Bliss versus Bailey.
Yep, gonna be fun. We'll see you all there.